Okay, today we are going to be learning about circles, and before we get started, we're going to go ahead and review some of our vocab words that we've learned over the years. The first vocab word would be the circumference. Remember that circumference is just simply the distance around the outside of the circle. The next vocab word that we'll talk about is the center. Remember that the center is the point in the middle of the circle. Okay, we also have the radius. The radius is a line drawn from the center of the circle to the outside of the circle. It is half the distance across the circle. And then, of course, we have the diameter. The diameter would be the segment that goes from one point on the outside of the circle through the center to the other side, a point opposite on the outside of the circle. Okay, to recap this, our circumference is the distance around the outside of the circle. Our center is the point in the middle of the circle. Our radius is the segment drawn from the center of the circle to its outside edge. And then the diameter is a segment that passes through the center and has endpoints on the circle. Let's draw a picture of these. Okay, using the different colors up here, we'll go ahead and draw our circumference. Our circumference will be in blue because it is the distance around the outside of the circle. Our center, we're going to use orange, and it should be in the middle of the circle. And then we're going to draw our radius. Remember that our radius was from the center of the circle to the outside, to the edge of the circle. It has an endpoint on the circle. This is your radius. And then we have our diameter. For our diameter, we're just simply going to extend this line. Well, let's go this way. We're going to start on one edge of the circle, through the midpoint, and to the other side, having an endpoint on the circle. This is your diameter. You'll need to recall that a radius is half of the diameter, and then of course the diameter would be twice the radius. Okay, we also need to learn about pi. And pi, for our purposes, we will use 3.14. If we're using fractions, we would use 22 over 7. Well, how did they find pi? Pi is actually the ratio of circumference of a circle to its diameter. That means if I divide the circumference of a circle by its diameter, I will get 3.14 every time. Of course, it's going to be a non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. We round it to 3.14 to make it easier to work with. We're going to be looking for the circumference of a circle, and the formula that we use for that is C equals pi d, where C is our circumference and d is our diameter. Well, what happens if they give me radius instead of diameter? Well, I would just want to change that radius. I'll take it times 2, and that would change it into its diameter. So again, if I was given radius and I needed a diameter, I would just simply multiply it by 2, because diameter is equal to radius times 2. Okay, here they're wanting me to find the diameter of a circle with a radius of 2 3/4. So I'll be using the formula D equals 2 3/4 times 2. To multiply fractions, recall that you need to change the mixed number into an improper fraction by multiplying your denominator times the whole number and then adding your numerator. So 4 times 2 is 8, 8 plus 3 is 11. I will be multiplying 11/4 times 2. When I multiply 11/4 times 2, I'll need to put the 2 over a 1. And I have the 4 as my denominator because you just keep the denominator when you change mixed numbers into improper fractions. I can simplify that. The 2 goes into the 2 once and the 2 goes into the 4 twice. So I have 11/2. My diameter is equal to 11/2 or 5 1/2. To use this formula, the circumference equals pi d, I would need to change my radius into a diameter by multiplying it by 2. And here is what I came up with. Okay, here we're being asked to find the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 43 feet. So I'm looking for circumference. I know I'm going to use the circumference formula, which is C equals pi d. Remember that between pi and d, when you have these two together like this is like having a number next to a letter, which means that we will be multiplying pi times diameter. If I go back up here, it's telling me that I'm looking for circumference. That means I won't be replacing the letter C. I'm going to keep it. Bring down my equal sign. We've been told to use 3.14 for pi, so we're going to go ahead and use 3.14 instead of pi. And remember, we said we'd be multiplying times the diameter. They told me that the diameter is 43 feet. So I'm replacing the d with a 43. Going back to my equal sign, because I used 3.14, I estimated it, I rounded it, I need to go ahead and change my equal sign to an approximately equal to. And now I'm ready to do my multiplication. 3.14 times 43. 3 times 4 is 12, carry the 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. Then with the 3, 4 times 4 is 16, carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 4 times 3 is 12. We're ready to add 2, 10, 15, 3, 1. Remember, I need to go back and see if I have any decimal places in my factors. And I have 2 decimal places in my factor, which means I have to move the decimal place twice in my product. My answer is C is approximately equal to 135 2/100. My units were feet. Okay, one thing you need to be careful about when doing these problems is look to see in the directions. Does it tell me to round to the nearest tenth, the nearest hundredth, the nearest whole number? Let's go ahead and round this one to the nearest whole number. That means that I would be rounding it to the ones position. The 0 tells me to leave the 5 a 5. So C is approximately equal to 135 feet. And because it's distance, we will not be squaring our units. We square our units if it is area. Okay, for this problem, they're asking us to find the radius of a circle with a diameter of 3 46/100 meters. So we need to go ahead and remember that a radius is half of a diameter. That means I'll be cutting this number in half or simply dividing by 2. Because I know that radius is equal to the diameter divided by 2. R equals 3.46 divided by 2.
Coming over here, we'll put the 3.46 inside of our division box, 2 on the outside,